Look up from your telescope, take me on this journey home. I don't wanna wait no more. Lay me down behind the moon.
Dun dun dun. Let's talk about Olivia's sobriety journey. And I came up with this idea to really create a video and have this discussion because I've seen once, twice, maybe 10 times in the comment sections of various videos how people are tired of Olivia being characterized as an addict. But y'all, that is her story for right now in the series. So let's really talk about her sobriety journey, and hopefully by the end of this video, you are a lot more comfortable with her being an addict and with people talking about her being an addict. Okay, so if we haven't learned anything by now, we should have definitely learned that addiction is a lifelong journey. Once you have addiction issues or once you struggle with addiction, it's not something that you are really cured of. It's something that you learn to live with. It's something that you learn to manage. It's something that you gain resources to help you control, but it's not something that you completely ever just completely step out of. Can we at least agree upon that? If you agree upon that part of it, then let me know in the comment section down below right now that, hey, I agree that addictions aren't cured. They are managed, they are lived with, they are worked through. And if you don't agree, this is a great time for you to tell me what you feel like the alternative is. If you do feel like addictions are cured, then you can drop that in the comment section as well. But I made that point specifically because not everyone, I don't want to speak in absolutes because it is not an everyone thing. It's just sometimes a good majority. Sometimes it's just a very, very loud minority. I'm talking about you, Olivia trolls. Sometimes it's just so overwhelming, the amount of people hollering and screaming and pissed off whenever I have a real conversation around Olivia and her addiction, Olivia, and specifically in this season, her alcoholism, and some of the things that have manifested by way of her being an addict. So most of her poor decisions, y'all, that she made in season 3 or this thus far has been rooted in her relapse. Okay, cool. You don't want Olivia to be, and again, I'm speaking to the people who feel this way, not everyone, but you don't want Olivia to be characterized as an addict, but that is exactly what her character is. I think what we have to do a better job of as people is to not necessarily associate negative or positive with every damn thing. Yes, addiction can be a problem. Yes, addicts can do manipulative, treacherous, disrespectful things, but that does not automatically make someone who is an addict or who is a recovering addict a bad person. So when I'm speaking about Olivia, and I have been read for filth both on YouTube and Instagram on various random things. Y'all would not believe the stuff that I get sent, child. But anyway, I have been read quite a few times in regards to Olivia, specifically when I speak about her and some of the shortcomings that are rooted in her addiction. And I want us to be able to get to a place where we can really have honest and open dialogue about it, because it's not going anywhere. Olivia will still be a recovering addict a year from now. Olivia will be a recovering addict 10 years from now. Olivia will be a recovering addict when she's 50. That is something that is not going to change. And if you are a person who is expecting people to never bring it up, especially when the things that she's doing in the moment that she's making mistakes or doing problematic things is rooted in this addiction or rooted in behavior that's tied to her addiction or her recovery journey, then you're just delusional, child. Like, I don't really know what to tell you. But as the title of this video says, we're going to talk about Olivia's sobriety journey. So before I even go even further into depth in reference to what I'm talking about, I do want to dial it back and I want to go into season 1, season 2, and then catch us up to where we are now and highlight specific points that kind of like nod to her sobriety journey, both when she was on it and doing well as when she has fallen off. And kind of speak about where I think she is right now. I am recording this video in between episodes 11 and 12, so we have not finished season 3 just yet, so we don't know what the rest of her recovery from her relapse looks like the rest of this season. But in my opinion, y'all, I think that this isn't a storyline that's going to go away after this season. I think, and this is just again 100% my opinion, I think that this is a thread that the writers will pull from. If All American makes it to 7-8 seasons, I could see them exploring different facets of addiction and alcoholism, or managing it, or the journey of sobriety, and all of the different things, tactics, ways that stuff manifests in association with that. Because another thing that we have to be very, very clear about is that addiction doesn't look like one person or one thing or one behavior, right? Just like sobriety, there's levels to that as well. Like, there's so much range in the area of addiction, as well as when people are on a journey of sobriety or recovery from a relapse. So I think that what we have seen with Olivia is one version of it. Just like, me growing up, I have seen what addiction looks like, and it looks like crackheads on the street. Olivia is nobody's crackhead on the street, right? So there's already different ways that this manifests, and I can see this not being the end all be all. I think that we are going to have more conversations. Now, do I think that Olivia is going to fall off the wagon? I don't know. Maybe we need to talk about that, because I don't even want to speak about that because y'all are going to be mad. I said I was going to talk about that a little bit more later on in the season, but I don't want to speak about it right now. But anyway, before I go into that, I do want to jump in and do like a timeline of Olivia's sobriety journey from what we have seen, and just note specific notable points. And then I want to jump back and really give an overall thought behind where I think she is and where I think she's going. All right, getting into this timeline. And again, these are just little touch points from each episode from season 1 and 2, where either her sobriety journey was directly mentioned, or it could be a potential act, situation, or person that could be triggering for her. Starting out with episode 1, the pilot episode of season 1. This is when we actually learn about Olivia's addiction, and she actually comes out and tells it to Spencer and details overviews the entire story behind her and going to rehab. She makes an off-the-cuff comment about no one is super eager to hang out with sober girl after rehab, and we get the gist that Olivia feels like she's the social pariah, that she has gone a different way, and while she's definitely a part of this world because financially she is amongst a wealthy family and she lives in Beverly Hills and she's from Beverly Hills, she feels very much so detached from the world that she knew and from this world that they're currently in. And this is where she really communicates to Spencer. So I wanted to really make the note about this, is because we meet her and know this about her. And at this point, it's not super clear of where she's at in reference to how long ago she was in rehab or when the incident happened. We do know that it's a little bit into the school year. It is into the fall, because at this point Spencer was recruited by Billy to come play at Beverly Hills, and the school year has already started, but it's not far enough along that it's like really, really deep. So I'm thinking this is probably around like end of September, October-ish, right? And this is something that, just keep in mind, I'm saying this because I'm really trying to track the timeline in reference to the amount of time that has been since her initial overdose. All right, so in episode 2, after the booster party, Olivia mentions to her dad how he's been putting more focus on Spencer instead of his family that's like in his house. Like, Jordan is lashing out because he wants more attention and he feels like he's being replaced, basically, without saying. That's basically what Jordan was giving, the vibes of that. And she makes a comment of, you have a daughter fresh out of rehab and the one person you're focused on is Spencer. And this is the first time that we get to really register how serious it is. And this is before we actually even get to see the flashback or anything to know, right? This is the first indication of like, okay, this was serious. And of course, if you go to rehab at some point, then clearly this was a problem that you had to be rehabilitated from. But then in episode 2 of season 1, when she makes this statement, we get to register for a moment like, oh, okay, wait, this was serious. And she says that she's fresh out of rehab. So for me, it's like, okay, she's out of rehab within the last 6-ish months, maybe, at least. And that's episode 2. Also in that episode, Olivia and Asher talk in the car about their drug-induced hookup before she left for rehab, and how she feel like she's lost Layla's friendship because of it. And at this point, Layla still doesn't know. No one knows except for Asher and Olivia, and Asher is stressing her out in the first part of this series because he thinks that she's going to tell. She doesn't really want to tell, and he keeps bothering her about it. Episode 3 of season 1, titled I, literally I, is after Layla and Olivia watch the movie together for their class. You know, Billy has this whole moment where he's so excited to see these two girls together because apparently they have not been hanging with each other. Of course, we get the hint of that in that previous episode because Olivia's like, oh, I lost my relationship with Layla behind this whole thing because I had to keep away. Layla brings up the point, like something about remember when this and this happened, and Olivia kind of like shrinks into her shell a little bit, and she makes the comment of like, I was high a lot back then, so no, I don't remember. And two things are happening in this moment, and both girls are in pain, and it sucks. When you go back and watch it, it hits completely different than when you were watching it and just seeing it play out right then and there, because in the moment it's like, okay, what's happening? Why is there so much tension? But we learned that Layla's struggling with, this is the anniversary of her mom's death. I think it's the 2nd year anniversary of her mom's death. And Olivia is right in speaking of like, there's so many things that have happened that she's trying to forget. And this is one of the first times that we start to see Olivia actually articulate that she's trying to move on and go past something and forget it. And this actually starts to foreshadow what we see in this season when Olivia is running around in season 3 talking about, I just want to forget summer. Like this is one of the first times that this pops up, and we can really see it track through her character journey. But in this episode, it could be a triggering thing because one, she has to reference that she was high, and she holds herself accountable to that, like, oh, I was high a lot, I don't remember, like that's just that. And then she also is triggered again because once she does remember what Layla was actually getting at, she realizes like, yo, this was Layla's mom's anniversary of death, and she actually shows up for her at the spot where they typically, or where they did last year, they go and they have rose petals and they like spread them out and they really try to commemorate Layla's mom's life and give Layla a moment to grieve. And that hits Olivia hard in this moment, I think, because not only did she already feel like their friendship was gone, but this was a moment for her to show up and get that back, because this is something that they do and that they have done. And before she even registered that this was something that she could do or should do, she kind of dismissed it and then remembered it later. So that kind of made her feel really, really bad. And they do a really good job of like not giving us clear dates or like time, so we can't really track how far apart each episode is in reference to days or weeks. But of course, the first season is all of fall semester of them in high school, so it is everything up until like December, and everything that's happening in season 1 is playing out over the course of those 4 months. In episode 4 of season 1, titled Lose Yourself, Asher has a party and Liv is super hesitant to go. This will be the first time she's going to try to participate within their social circle again, not to mention there will be alcohol and drugs around. So she's not really into the idea of going. At this moment, we're seeing that she's loving getting Layla back as a friend. Layla is still unaware of what happened with her and Asher. And then Layla convinces her to come and to bring Spencer, and this is where we start to get the like call to action of like, yo, I know that you like Spencer. Layla's one of the first people to actually mention it, and this kind of pushes her to act on the words and go get Spencer. And when she does go get Spencer, she makes a comment to him saying that she's so over being the sad rehab girl who sits at home alone every weekend. And I'm making a note of some of the quotes that she says because there's so much I feel like that is in the dialogue of these characters. They really give you a lot of perspective and understanding of what they're thinking and where they are in that moment by the stuff that they say. And it's not always something that's said outright, but there's a lot of subtext in this. So in the so over being the sad rehab girl who sits at home alone every weekend, we can see that Olivia is laying the groundwork to communicating that she struggles with being lonely, and she struggles with what her new position is, because once we get to it, because we haven't gotten there yet, but once we get to the flashback, we see that she was trying to make herself the life of the party by using drugs, and she felt like she needed that to fit in and to be cool. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but she even makes a comment of like Jordan doesn't even have to try as hard. And in this episode, episode 4, with her saying that she's tired of sitting at home alone and not having people and all that, I think that this is a good thing to note, because this is something that could be hard to navigate. Like, she's on a recovery journey at this point. She's out of rehab. She's placed right back into the world and the circumstances and this literally the same places, the same friends that she had, that as she was utilizing drugs and got to that point of overdosing. So nothing has changed except for the fact that she actually went to rehab and has worked through a few things, but she's still being presented on a daily basis with similar places and memories and things that could potentially bring her back to that place. And for me, I think rehab is great and it's necessary, but one of the things that also has to be addressed is what led you there. So what were the feelings, what were the thoughts, what were the things that were happening that set you up or put you in a position to choose drugs to be able to numb yourself, or to choose alcohol to make yourself feel better? Like, what are the things of your life that also have to be addressed? And I think that that's one of the things that's like subtle, that we don't necessarily get to see right away, but when you go back and you rewatch and you think about it, they literally just drop Liv right back into the same situations that she was in, sent her to rehab, but never addressed all of the other things that could contribute to her drug use. And one of the big ones is loneliness. The Baker household is a very lonely house. Okay, I just went on a freaking long tangent, but I hope y'all tracking what I'm saying. Hey, are you enjoying the Olivia sobriety journey video? Well, if you would like to watch the video in full, go ahead and click the join button right now next to the subscribe button on the channel and become an Erica Vane TV member to get full access to this 50-minute deep dive video into Olivia's sobriety journey. As a member of Erica Vane TV, on the different tiered levels, you get access to various perks, everything from loyalty badges, custom emojis, all the way up to special members only videos like this one. If you're not ready to join the membership just yet, that's fine. Be sure to drop down in the comment section and let me know what you thought of the first part of this video. And Erica Vane TV has over 200 All-American videos on it. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, which is absolutely free, and get into one of those other videos. I have the link for you right here, as well as the link to my full season 1 breakdown on the left. Enjoy, and I'll see you in my next video.